The silence of a 30-year retirement is a long time to reflect on what could have been. For those of us who have walked this path for decades, the greatest burdens aren't the years themselves, but the avoidable choices that slowly erode our independence, our purpose, and the legacy we worked a lifetime to build. When we first step away from the workforce, we are often seduced by the image of the permanent vacation. We imagine that the absence of a ticking clock is the ultimate reward for 40 years of labor. In those first few months, the novelty of unscheduled mornings feels like a deep, cleansing breath. But 30 years is a vast expanse of time, nearly a third of a human life. The first mistake many of us make is falling into the trap of total leisure. Without the scaffolding of a career, it is easy to succumb to purpose drift. We find ourselves waking up without a why, letting the days melt into one another until the seasons themselves seem to blur. True rest is only restorative when it follows effort. When leisure becomes the only note in the song, the melody loses its beauty. Those who thrive for 3 decades in retirement are those who realize that the human spirit does not actually want to retire. It wants to contribute. Failing to anchor your days in some form of meaningful work, be it a garden, a mentorship, or a creative pursuit, leads to a quiet, premature sense of fading away. We must remember that we did not work all those years just to stop existing. We worked to finally have the freedom to choose our own burdens. Dignity in later life is found in being needed, even if the scale of that need has shifted from the boardroom to the backyard. As the years stretch into decades, a second shadow begins to loom, the slow, almost imperceptible shrinking of our world. In the beginning, our social circles feel robust, filled with former colleagues and lifelong friends. But time is an unyielding editor. Friends move away, health limits travel, and the phone rings less often. The mistake here is passive isolation, the belief that community will find us because it always has. We become comfortable in our solitude, forgetting that the muscles of social engagement atrophy just like any other. We start to rely solely on a spouse or a single child for all our emotional needs, which is a weight no one person is meant to carry. To live well for 30 years, one must become an active architect of connection. It requires the humility to seek out intergenerational bridges, reaching across the age gap to find common ground with those younger than ourselves. There is a specific kind of vitality that comes from hearing the ambitions of a grandchild or the perspective of a young neighbor. When we surround ourselves only with those who remember the same good old days, our world becomes a museum. By staying curious about the evolving world and keeping our doors and minds open to the new, we ensure that our final decades are spent in the present tense rather than the past. Physical health is often viewed through the lens of repair. But after 30 years of retirement, we learn that the real goal is maintenance of dignity. Many of us fall into the wait-and-see trap, treating our bodies like old houses where we only fix the roof once it starts to leak. This reactive approach to wellness is a gamble with our independence. We stop moving because it hurts, not realizing that the stillness is what makes the pain permanent. We tell ourselves that a little less balance or a little more forgetfulness is just the inevitable tax of age. But in doing so, we surrender our agency far earlier than necessary. The mistake is forgetting that the body is a vessel for our freedom. Maintaining functional mobility isn't about vanity or athletic achievement. It is about the ability to walk to the mailbox, to lift a grocery bag, and to stand tall in a room. It is an act of quiet rebellion against the narrative of decline. When we treat our physical and cognitive engagement as a daily practice rather than a medical chore, we remain the protagonists of our stories. We realize that while we cannot stop the clock, we can certainly choose the pace at which we move through the hours, ensuring we are never merely passengers in our own lives. There is also a quiet, heavy mistake that often goes unspoken: the desire to keep our lives perfectly compartmentalized and private. We tell ourselves we are protecting our families by not discussing the transition of our affairs or the thinning of our possessions. We call it independence, but left too long, it becomes a legacy of complexity. After 30 years, the objects we have gathered and the systems we have built can become an anchor for those we leave behind. The cluttered exit is not just about physical boxes in an attic. It is about the emotional weight of unresolved details and the silence regarding our true wishes. Simplifying our lives is perhaps the greatest gift of love we can offer. By thinning out the excess and being transparent about our needs and intentions, we clear a path for our loved ones to grieve us with peace rather than frustration. There is a profound sense of relief in owning only what we truly use and knowing that our house is in order. It allows us to spend our final years focused on people rather than things. It transforms the end of the journey from a logistical puzzle into a graceful departure, ensuring that our presence is remembered for the wisdom we shared, not the mess we left behind. Finally, the most subtle mistake of a long retirement is the belief that the time for growth has passed. It is easy to think that by 70 or 80, the clay has hardened and there are no more versions of ourselves to meet. But the second wind is a real and powerful phenomenon for those who stay open to it. If you spend 30 years just holding on, you miss the opportunity for the late life renaissance, that period where the pressure of performance is gone and only the purity of interest remains. It is a time when wisdom finally catches up with experience. As we look back on 3 decades of life after work, we see that the journey was never about reaching a destination of total rest. It was about refining the soul. The mistakes of purpose drift, isolation, neglect, and complexity are all born from the fear that we are finished. But you are not finished until the very last breath is drawn. Each morning is an invitation to be a slightly wiser, kinder, and more engaged version of the person you were yesterday. In the end, a successful retirement isn't measured by the comfort of our chairs, but by the depth of our peace and the clarity of the legacy we leave in the hearts of others.